back to the Conversational AI Fest. I hope you enjoyed your lunch break and the networking session that we had together. For those actually that didn't reach to join this networking session, don't worry because there will be another one after the event around 5 p.m. But now we're going to start our afternoon sessions with an interesting chat with Fenne de Beer, Project Manager Service at VanMoof. For those who don't know, VanMoof is one of the most well-known e-bike providers in the Netherlands. And together with Catarina Ribeiro, our enterprise account executive at Chatlayer, will tell us more about the VanMoof journey and how they reached to get this conversational AI solution in their business and how this have benefited them to reach some goals. So, Fenne, Kat, welcome.
How Thank you, Claudia, so much. I'm good. How are you?
All good, all good. I'm very happy to have you here. Actually, let's start right away. Please, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Claudia. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining our first ever Conversational AI Fest. I hope you enjoy it. My name is Catarina. I'm the account executive at Chatlayer. And today I'd like to talk to you about the challenges that we face in micromobility and how a conversational AI solution can help. For that, I will be talking to Fenne de Beer. And Fenne is a project manager at VanMoof, and they're one of our mobility customers. So she'll be talking, about her first-hand experience in dealing with these challenges and implementing our solution. And at the end of the session, we'll have some time for some Q&A, and any questions that we cannot respond to you during this session, of course, we'll handle them offline later. But let's start with the challenges. So because we're talking to VanMoof, I took bikes as an example today. And this is a typical scene at a train station in the Netherlands. So if you've ever been to the Netherlands, you know it is a bike country. A lot of bikes. But the thing is, bikes get stolen and they break. They get misplaced. So the more and more people who use any solution with micromobility, there's more and more people who will need support and who will have questions, who will need help with anything. And you never know when or where something might happen because users may need support at any time, day or night, and they expect to be helped immediately. I mean, if I'm on the road and my bike breaks for any reason, I will need support immediately. So for companies, it's very difficult to find people nowadays, but it's also very difficult to find good people who will stay, and then not mentioning the cost and time of finding and training new employees. So ways that conversational AI solution can help is, first of all, a bot is available 24/7, and it provides instant support. It can give you advice with a shopping assistant based on input criteria or online behavior. It can handle FAQs. It can help you track your delivery status. It can schedule test drives, maintenance appointments. Higher personalization is actually possible because of automating options. It's multilingual. We support over 125 languages. NPS increased because of satisfied customers, but also turnover decreased because your employees have more time to do more challenging, more interesting cases, and they will have less repetitive work. It's also a very low threshold, easy way of requesting feedback within the bot, um, within the bot's conversation instead of sending an email later on or sending a message later on. You can use it in every channel. Integration with all internal platforms is possible, and it's very scalable. It will grow with you. As a solution provider, it is, of course, very easy for me to talk about what we can do. but I think it's more interesting if you hear it from a customer who's done this. So this is why I asked Fenne to join us. Fenne, thank you so much for joining me. Welcome.
Thank
Um,
you.
just to start, I have a couple of questions that I've prepared that I'm very curious to know about. But just to start, for those who don't know, please tell us who VanMoof is, and please tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you came to be where you are today.
Sure. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Fenne, and I work at VanMoof as a project manager. For those of you who don't know VanMoof, VanMoof is an innovative e-bike company, and we're based in Amsterdam. However, we have stores and service hubs all over the world. VanMoof was founded by two Dutch brothers, Taco and Ties, in 2009. And our mission is to get 1 billion bumps on bikes. So basically, we aim for getting more people on bikes instead of riding cars. We really try to disrupt the market by having always innovative features, implementing technology in our bikes. So basically, also our bikes are unstealable. And yeah, what I already said, we're an e-bike company, so we're only selling electrical bikes, and we have two models right now, which are the S5 and the A5. I joined VanMoof 1.5 years ago. I started my career after I left university at a really small consultancy agency, where I really learned how to implement digital service strategies, and where I learned what chatbots were and how to use them and what the benefits could be. After almost 4 years, I left them and I joined VanMoof with a really specific task, which was actually to implement a virtual assistant for them and also rolling out the live chat experience, which I did for a year, I guess. And currently, I switched to another role. I'm still a project manager. However, I focus less on like customer service and more on retail and bike doctors right now, which is a new challenge, but I'm still happy to talk about the chatbot we implemented in the past, which is still live, of course.
Very cool. Thank you. So what was it that led VanMoof to deciding to implement a bot?
Yeah, so of course, what I also just said is that our mission is to have more people riding bikes, and therefore we're also selling more and more bikes. However, that results, of course, in having more questions. Yet we really want to offer everyone a personalized service without growing our CS department proportionally. So that's where the question kind of came from, like, how can we do that, and what would be a scalable solution in order to keep or stay personal, however, not growing really rapidly on the other side. So the demand for a chatbot really arose. Um, when I joined VanMoof, we still had really traditional channels like phone and email. We did a small trial with chat already, but we didn't use it on a really big scale. And we also always turn it down when it was really busy, which you sometimes see at companies. So we started to do a trial for chat to see how our riders would like that way of interacting with us. And we already really quickly saw the benefits from it. However, we also saw that a lot of questions are the same, right? So there are a lot of repetitive questions that you could also do yourself, what a writer can do themselves, or which they also can find on our FAQ pages and stuff. So this, yeah, kind of gave us the insight that we can also automate these kind of questions in order to have more time for the questions that actually matter and where we can actually add some value.
All right. So you have a support bot. So
Yeah.
why did you choose for conversational AI and not like a simpler bot, like with a closed flow that might have been a smaller project?
Yeah, so what I just mentioned, like when I joined, we've really had this like small trial with chat, and we used that from our ticketing system. uh, and they also offer chat. And we used their chatbot for quite some time, which was a really like closed flow. So we kind of gave people some options like what's wrong with your bike or what are you looking for. However, it's really not personal and it's also a bit dumb, right? So a lot of people always chose the option other, and they just wanted to talk to someone. Um, so we really were looking for something where we could offer this really personalized way of interacting with our riders. And therefore, we really felt like, okay, we need to go and work with a more open chatbot. And because there are so many ways to describe a problem, and we feel like if you really are going to steer people into a certain direction, it can feel a bit weird, and it really feels like a chatbot. So that's why we chose to create an open chatbot by using conversational AI to make sure we can always improve, analyze data, and make sure that our chatbot becomes smarter and smarter instead of making optimizations based on assumptions because people just click on a certain button to get through.
Yeah. All right, very cool. So, what were for you the most important criteria when choosing a supplier provider?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. So we sell our bikes in many different countries, which comes with a challenge, of course, that there are many riders who talk in many different languages. So our main criteria, which was the most important for us, is that we wanted to have a multilingual bot that was able to offer support in a lot of different languages. And that was quite hard for a lot of suppliers because some say, okay, you need to build 4 bots, like 1 bot for every language. But that's very hard to maintain, of course. For example, if we have a new bike or our name will change, stupid example, but always these kind of things can happen, right? Then we need to update all the different bots. So we were really looking for one system that had this like clear overview and which made it really easy for us to translate it, but was also able to recognize other languages. Which Chatlayer is, in our opinion, really good in. So basically, if you talk French to your English bot, it will respond in English if we don't have the answer yet. But at least writers feel a bit understood and they
Yeah,
can continue in their own language.
exactly. It
So
will at least recognize the language and understand what you're saying.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Um,
So, what were the unforeseen bumps on your road?
Yeah, well, we still want to use our current chat system that we already had, and of course, we already had a long-term contract with them. But like, we really want to offer our riders a seamless experience when they wanted to have a handover. So we want to integrate Chatlayer with our chat system, and that sounds pretty easy to do, but it's always a bit more difficult than you would expect upfront. Um, so that was kind of an interesting thing because, yeah, we needed to work, of course, with 2 big tools that needed to talk to each other.
Yeah.
And besides that, yeah, there were some things that didn't really work out, and it was sometimes hard to like let's sit with the 3 of us around the table and just make sure that everything works out well, because otherwise it's a really shitty experience, of course, for the customer. And furthermore, that's also what you can never expect. But the day we went live, we had a really big bug, which was very, very stressful because we went live actually. And the moment we went live, and a lot of people were talking to us, so we saw all these conversations coming in. However, when Boost, that's what our chatbot is called, did an handover to an agent, Boost was also still hanging around. So people kind of had like this group conversation with Boost and an agent, and agents were responding, Boost was responding. So it was very hectical. And our agents were typing, sorry, don't look to the conversation with Boost. But obviously, yeah, that didn't really work. So we needed to turn off our chat for quite some hours, like 4 hours, which was very, very stressful. But also, when we look back at it, it was kind of funny as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing. That sounds like a lot of stress, but it is
Yeah.
kind of hilarious. So a lot of troubleshooting the first time around.
Yeah, but I think that's always the case, of course, and you learn very fast from it.
Yeah, projects and plans and so um how long after choosing a supplier did you get the bot actually live? Tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, it wasn't a really long time. I think we signed in November and our chatbot was live around February.
Hmm.
However, I must say that I really did a lot of work up front. So I already started in May, June by labeling all of our chats, thinking about like, okay, what conversations can we automate or what should the dialogues look like? And I already started with like drawing out the whole the conversations, etc. So basically, we already had all these kind of things. We only needed to choose for a supplier, was a bit a parallel process. So when we actually signed with Chatlayer, we only needed to implement all of our conversations. However, that also sounds more easy than it was, of course, uh, because we wanted to use a lot of variables. For example, we also changed our way of working. So at VanMoof, we really work with skill groups. So we have a tech group or a finance group. And basically, Boost is based on the question a writer is asking, will redirect you to one of these groups. But to do
Hmm.
that, of course, you need to implement a lot of like variables to make sure that the right person will end in the right group. Um, and besides that, we have a lot of like different opening times. So we also implemented the bot for the US. However, the US obviously has different opening hours than us. So we need to do all these checks like, is this person in Europe or in the US? What's this question about? What group does he need to go to? Furthermore, we have different opening hours in the weekend and in the week. So we also need to do
Hmm.
those kind of checks. Um, so yeah, I think it took us around 3 months to really implement the actual bot and go
Yeah,
live.
with a lot of homework done beforehand to
Yeah,
be fair,
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
because it is a big enterprise, of course. So Boost has been live for about 5 6 months now,
yeah.
I believe. Are there any results that you can share with us?
Yeah, definitely. So the moment we implemented Boost, we already saw some really positive results. So our main KPI is the handover rate, actually. So we're really tracking how many conversations Boost is handing over to an agent. And right now, that result is really, really positive. So I think we deflect around 70% with Boost, which is quite high, of course. And that also results in that we sold more bikes and we have way more service questions right now. However, our customer support team didn't really grow that much. So we can keep our amount of people we're working with really stable. However, we can handle way more questions,
Yeah.
which is good. And we also try to keep it stable by keeping analyzing the data, improving, adding more conversations, and all these kind of things. And it's also really good to learn about what the actual questions are that our writers are asking us or your customers in that sense. Because we can also track those kind of problems and solve problems somewhere else at the website or in the customer journey, of course, based on what they're asking.
Exactly. So you already said a little bit, of course, because you said you were able to keep your team kind of the same, so it didn't grow that much. But what does it mean to have a bot? What does it mean um, for your support team generally, practically? How were they? What was the reaction when you talked about InfoMove, when you talked about implementing a bot? What was the reaction? How did it grow from there? So
Yeah, so the time we implemented the bot, we were really in an interesting phase because we were almost about to launch our newest bikes. And we know from the past that it's causing a lot of questions. People are super excited about the new bikes, but they also want to know everything about features and how the new bike works. So basically, we just had Boost live for, I think, 1 month or 2 weeks, and then we had that huge launch. And we decided with the team that we all were going to work in the evening to make sure that the first few batch of questions was quickly answered. However, we saw that, so we're all kind of scary, but also excited, like what's going to come, but we weren't sure. And then we saw that Boost was deflecting so many questions because we really well prepared about like what do we think writers will ask us and how can we like guide them to the right place on the website as well. So basically, it was pretty quiet that night, but we're also a bit like, is something down? Is this going well? But eventually, we saw that it was going really well. So that's also what really excited our customer support agents. Of course, they really felt like, okay, this is really cool. It's a really useful tool to answer all the repetitive questions, which are also a bit maybe boring if you need to answer them all over and over and over again. And furthermore, Boost is really working as a work preparer for them. So it asks our writers already lots of questions. It's also gaining a lot of variables from our internal systems. So basically, when an agent is actually talking to someone, they already know like their open orders, what's going on with their bike, what their question is about, what they want to know, their email address, and all these kind of basic information. So it makes them faster in their work, which is really nice, of course, because answering multiple chats at the same time can be sometimes a bit stressful,
Yeah,
especially when you need to ask all these kind of easy questions like what's your name, what's your bike frame number, all this stuff.
exactly. So what does that look like from the support team side when there's a handover from the bot?
Yeah, so basically we integrate everything. So when a customer support agent is opening their chat window, they see the whole conversation that already happened with Boost. Furthermore, they see their customer details like their name, their email address, and when they are logged in MyVanMoof, we also send, like for example, their frame number, their open orders, their repair number. Um, more like the firmware they're using for their app, which is interesting for us to know because that's also saying something about the quality of the bike at that moment.
Yeah.
So basically, our agents can help right away. So they can also say like, okay, I'm going to check it right now instead of asking them, hey, what's your question about? Like they can already do some work up front before they start answering the writer.
Exactly. Very, very cool. So what are your tips and tricks for anyone thinking about implementing a bot right now? So, there's this new idea of what's your wisdom on that?
Yeah, so basically, I would really start with analyzing your current incoming questions. So just start labeling them. What are the main categories? What are the subcategories? And then also analyze like what are the most asked questions, right? You can just make a percentage out of that and just start small. Everyone says
Mhm.
that, no one does that, I think. But start with your top 10 and just make some easy conversations out of that. Um, so basically, start small, maybe start with some close dialogue so that you really are asking some questions back to make sure that you really are answering the right question. And if it would become too complex, you can also choose for like, okay, we cannot answer that with the bot yet, but you get a direct handover because it's still a bit too complex or we don't know how to automate it. So that's really what I would advise. And if you also start small, it's really easy to see and go to the training tab from Chatlayer to see, okay, what our writers are asking and which expression is going to what intent, and is that a match or not? Because yeah, if you have 50 conversations, that's already pretty hard to go through everything, of course. So I really believe in just making your top 10 dialogues very strong, and then trying to look for gaps. What are the questions? Which questions are being asked that we don't cover yet? And then try to implement them if you see, okay, this is really like a common question that is being asked all the time. And what I also think is very important to keep in mind is that as soon as you implement a chatbot, like all departments are pretty interested in also like putting their story in the chatbot. And we always say we only work data driven. So basically, we're not going to implement anything that you feel like should be in there. If it's not being asked, it will never be found, and it's only messing up our AI in that sense. So that's what I would really keep in mind as well.
Okay, thank you. Out of curiosity, so every company has this FAQ page, right? Have you noticed a difference? Have you noticed, for example, that customers prefer just asking a question to the bot and get an instant reaction rather than just going to an FAQ page and looking for their question and answer?
Yeah, I think it depends a bit on the customer. So I think some people really like to read like this long article with all information in there, and we really see cultural differences as well. So for example, Germans really want to know every single detail, and our Dutch customers are a bit more, they're also good with like short answer. So I think it's really good to have a combination of both. So I really see the chatbot as your assistant that can really help you by giving a short answer, but also guiding you to where you need to go on a certain website. Because I think still the website is a really big part of your of the customer experience, and it also gives you more opportunity to write like everything down. So for example, we sometimes have like these huge manuals how to assemble your bike and all these kind of things, and I think like a chatbot window can be a bit too small for that. But people are sometimes a bit lazy also in terms of searching, so they just type in a chatbot assemble my bike, and then it's super nice, of course, to guide them towards a manual or FAQ. And having this like tiny snippet in the chatbot. So I think by combining them, you have a really strong service page.
All right, very cool. So my last question before we have some time for Q&A. What are Boost's next steps? Anything interesting, any interesting projects in the near future?
Yes, definitely. So we're currently implementing Boost in our Riders app. I don't know if any of you has a VanMoof, but then like you can open the bike and you can see all the stats and data in your app, like how fast you ride and how many kilometers you already drove. So we really also feel like if you are standing next to your bike, it's really nice to have everything on your app, right? So that's why we also want to implement Boost in the app, so we can troubleshoot with a rider when they're standing next to their bike, or telling them how they can execute a reset on their bike when they have problems and stuff like that. So that's something we're working on right now. And furthermore, we're also looking into opportunities or possibilities of integrating our planning tool into the conversation, so it becomes a bit more easy to book a repair appointment within Boost. But that's a bit for the future. And we're also expanding Boost, like we're translating Boost also to other languages. So we have Dutch, English, and French right now. No, German right now, and we still need to do French. And we also have customers in Japan, so we might also go for a Japanese translation, which I'm not going to do.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
All right. So you don't work directly with a bot anymore, but I'm pretty sure you still get a lot of information from there. Do you think this is something um, that will grow with you? Do you think it's scalable enough to grow with you, or do you think at a certain point you might need to search for other solutions or for other, ways of reaching out and engaging with your customers?
No, I think it's definitely a great solution to grow with us. I feel like the questions will not change, right? Like the more riders you get, everyone has a question about repairs, deliveries,
Yeah,
um, and technical stuff. So I think it's such a good tool, especially when you become better and better to analyze everything. You really know what's playing in your group of customers, like what their questions are, which is really insightful. And you can also use that to increase your customer journey, making sure that those questions don't arise anymore. Um, so yeah, I really think it's a really good solution. However, I do feel like it's not that you need to use a chatbot for everything that goes wrong in your customer journey, right? It's more like also using that data, but also improving it on the front end side, and not use it as a plaster to put it on all of your bad processes. So
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, we always say at Chatlayer, we always say we don't want to replace your employees. We just, we want to help, but we're not here to replace everything and everyone. So I absolutely agree with you on that one. How about analytics? I've actually never asked anything about analytics. How do you use it to um, to improve your service? So outside of the bot, outside of training the bot, for example, how do you use the analytics to support you in the rest of your business within FOMO?
Yeah, that's a really good one. So basically, we analyze all the data and then we see, okay, these are our top questions. And then it's really, really insightful to really go through the actual question. So sometimes a lot of things are based on assumptions. For example, we do get a lot of questions about the status of a repair,
Hmm.
but there can be a lot of questions about the status. Like it's not that all people are frustrated about that it really takes long, for example, but they're frustrated about that they don't get updates or something like that.
Yeah,
So when we figure that out, we're trying to look at, okay, how can we solve that? So basically what we're doing right now is that a lot of people had questions about the repair status, and their main question was like, what is my repair status? So that's where we kind of concluded, okay, the repair status communication is not very clear. So
yeah,
we really improved that in my VanMoof, and we're also sending out way more emails. And we also implement a new system internally that has way more information about the repair status. But we also chose to really like um, communicate that with our riders.
yeah.
Um, and that's really cool to see if we can do like a zero measurement and after measurement to see, okay, did it actually help? And
Yeah.
are we seeing less questions about that topic right now?
Exactly. So really, it helped you a lot with, with realizing, with knowing what it is that your customers really do need, so you can go from there, and it's very, very cool. All right. Thank you. That was it for me. I'm sorry there were two more questions than I had in mind at first, but thank you so much for everything. So we can open up for some Q&A.
That is correct. We're ready for some Q and A's. So I'm gonna read a couple of them. One is from Ashley Moons. I think this one goes for you, Kat. It says, "How does Chatlayer adapt to new languages? For example, if VanMoof is introduced into a new country, but the languages spoken are not yet available in the bot, how can Chatlayer do that?"
So there's different ways of doing this. Now, to be fair, I don't think we have a lot of languages out there that we don't support yet. but there are some, local languages, for example, within Africa, for example, or India. So we may not support those languages. In those cases, we will most probably, depending on the case again, we will most probably be working with a partner who can help with those languages as well, so that we can introduce them and add them to the platform.
Perfect. Cool. I think this one, Fanny, I think you will be able to answer it. But it says from Karen Verma, does VanMoof implement the bot themselves internally with a low code platform, or are they comfortable with a third party implementation?
Yeah, no, we did everything ourselves internally. So basically, I did it together with a conversational designer, and he wrote all the actual conversations because I'm not really good in copywriting. And then we also worked a lot with a UX designer who also is very just a tech savvy person who really figured out everything with like the variables and all these kind of things around it. And yeah, we just basically played around with it and we became, I guess, experts in it by doing it.
Cool.
So yeah.
Thanks. We have another question actually from Barent. How do you decide which intense topics should be added next?
Good question. Yeah, so we really try to base it on what questions are asked the most, of course. So if we really see a topic that comes up all the time and we really see, okay, we don't have an answer for that yet. So basically, to give an example, we have a B2B department and we do also leasing bikes and all these kind of things. And there were a lot of people who were asking about like, how does it work? Where can I get more information and all these kind of things? And we really didn't have any dialogues which were answering those kind of questions. So then we decided, okay, let's add them. And then when we add them, of course, a new question will arise. And then we were going to add them next.
All right, perfect. We still have a couple of minutes for more questions. If anyone in the audience have more questions, feel free to ask them. In the meantime, of course, this has been great. Thanks a lot to share the experience, Van, about an actual well-known business going through an implementation of a conversational AI, and for sharing all the great benefits that implementing a bot in your business have brought to you. So thanks a lot to be on this. I think there's okay. I think we have one more. Alexander said, "Hi, Fenne. What was the biggest win for VanMoof by implementing a Chatlayer bot?"
Good question. I think our biggest win is that we can work smarter and not harder. So by just automating a lot of repetitive questions, of course, you can focus way more on things that actually matter, take time for conversations that matter, instead of just answering, hey, what's my repair status? Okay, you can see that in my remote. Oh, go there, right? So basically, we really took away this dumber questions in that sense. So I think that's definitely the biggest win. And also our biggest win is to really offer service in multiple languages. Our writers are super satisfied with that.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. All right, it's just a comment. Thanks, Penny. Really cool to learn about VanMoof bot. Great work. Okay, so I thank you. A really big thanks to you both for joining us today, for sharing the experience of VanMoof with Chatlayer, and for your time and presentation. Thanks again, and hope to see you in the networking session around 5 o'clock. Thanks, Penny. Thanks, Kat.
Great. Thank you so much.
Bye, Claudia. Thank you.
Have a nice
Bye.
day. All right. Now we're going to have a 20-minute break. We'll be back at 3 p.m. For our next session with Yannick van Altena from bol.com. Please remember to fill in the mini survey that you will find in the link. You will find the link in the chat. That helps us a lot for feedback in the sessions and the topics that we're talking about. See you back at 3 o'clock. Bye.